A first year in a new community is a whirlwind. This time last year, I was speaking to a room full of wonderful strangers. This year, it's a privilege to stand before friends. It was a great year, and honestly, this summer I was looking forward to a little break. I was lucky to spend a week-long vacation on Cape Cod with friends and their delightful children. It was lovely. And I came home, and I was still tired. Has that ever happened to you? I felt like I needed a vacation from my vacation. I realized that my exhaustion had gone beyond something physical, and it had settled in my soul. But when I thought about it more, I'm not actually surprised. We are flooded with constant notifications, worrying about Israel, worrying about Gaza, worrying about America, worrying about gun violence, worrying about rising anti-Semitism. Jews are not the only people who are tired right now. Women, members of the LGBTQ+ community, immigrants, the list goes on and on. But as a Jewish person living in 2025, I am tired, and I know many of you are too. Feeling depleted is not how I wanted to enter the new year. All summer I was hoping and praying for some relief, something to buoy me in these unprecedented times, because really, enough with the unprecedented times already. And then something happened. A meeting. Not a long, tedious meeting where you look at the clock and wonder how many emails are piling up during this meeting, but a meaningful meeting where you get to sit down and hear someone else's story. This summer, I met with Gerard. Gerard is a professor of anthropology at Columbia. And through a relatively brief but deeply meaningful conversation, he gave me that breath of energy I was desperate to find. He helped me to take my shoulders down, away from my ears. He held up a mirror for me to show the most beautiful parts of who we are as Jews. On Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar, we need to do more than repent and acknowledge how we've missed the mark. We also need to see the good in us as individuals and as a people. Yom Kippur is in our tradition one of the days we get closest to God. And the God I believe in is a God who celebrates our successes, who loves us for all of our flaws, and wants us to know how very good we are. After each stage of creation, God says the creations are tov, good. But when God creates humanity, God calls us tov me'od, very good. This modifier is a reminder to all of us of what we have the potential to be in this world. So today, in addition to our Hasham news, we need to reanimate and reinvigorate our deep love for our Jewishness, because it should not be a burden. It is very good. It is meant to be a source of joy and light and love. This isn't revolutionary. In fact, it's already so much a part of my Judaism that I taught about it last year in one of my high holiday sermons. But it just goes to show how guarded and worn out I have become that I needed this reminder anyway. Gerard said that when he worries about the Jewish people, he remembers that through it all, through every chapter in the life of our people, Jews do more than survive. We flourish. It's true that for many of us, it's the scariest time in our lives to be Jewish. I won't deny it. But we can learn so much from our history And over again, through the most challenging moments in the long story of the Jewish people, we have done more than make it through. We have thrived through our determined commitment to innovation and adaptation. I do not believe that Jews have survived through the years because God says so. I believe we survive and thrive because we have said so and because we have done so. The temple in Jerusalem was destroyed twice. First in 586 BCE, then again in 70 CE, our central location of Jewish gathering, the one place where the priests would speak to God on the people's behalf, was decimated. These moments of destruction loom large in our history and in our liturgical cycle. We point to them as the reason that Jews were forced out of the land of Israel to live in diaspora, and we have Tisha B'Av, a day dedicated to mourning the destruction of the temple, as well as many other catastrophic moments in our history. There's no denying the fact that these destructions tore a gash in the fabric of the Jewish ritual and practice of the day. That could have been the end of us. But here we are, generations later, with bright-colored patches and new stitching in our Judaism, stronger than ever. The Judaism we practice today would be nearly entirely unrecognizable to a Jew from the time when the temple still stood. We have traded in priests for rabbis. We replaced sacrifice of animals and goods with prayer, good deeds, and the study of Torah. According to Torah, the practice for Yom Kippur was to take all of our sins and place them on a goat, which we then banish into the wilderness to wander and to die. That's where the scapegoat comes from. Today, you will see we have no goat on our bima. But there is photographic evidence in recent history that one Rabbi Fenster has dressed up as a goat for the sake of learning about this practice. If you would like to see that picture, you may ask him later. Honestly, I find it difficult to be too sad about the destruction of the temple. Of course, I am devastated by what it represents, such fierce hatred and desire for power that leads us to destroy one another's holiest places. Unfortunately, we have yet to overcome this as a larger society. But the fact that the temple no longer exists doesn't upset me, because I love who we have become. Change is a constant in our tradition, sometimes externally motivated, other times spurred from within. And I love our Judaism, with strong roots in our past, balanced with incredible innovations that have brought us here, to White Plains, to Kol Ami in 2025. We take prayer and turn it into an out-of-this-world, vibrant, musical, uplifting experience. We take our obligation to feed the hungry so seriously that we don't just donate to a food bank a few times a year. We built a food pantry right here on our campus, run by dedicated volunteers each and every week. Remembering my pride in Jewish tradition and in our very own community has been so important for my soul during this extremely troubling time in the world. With change as a foundational piece of who we are, the question then becomes, what keeps us together? That was the second thing Gerard shared with me. It's not theology that binds us, it's not nationalism, and it's not military might. It's certainly not a reliance on agreement or a required unanimous voice. No. As an anthropologist, Gerard said, he is deeply moved that throughout the generations, in every location around the globe, Jews have gathered on Friday nights to celebrate Shabbat. What an incredibly simple idea from which to draw our strength and resilience. But it is so deep that every week, no matter what happened in the world or in our lives, we get together. There have been moments in our history when we've had to hide the light of our Shabbat candles or pray in secret. I'll never forget the dual feelings of heaviness and inspiration I carried while standing in a sanctuary built in a potato cellar in Theresienstadt. To know that even faced with the most extreme, dangerous situations, our people have gathered to bring more light into the world. But it's not just about prayer. We gather around tables in our homes to share food, to share stories, to share our lives, and of course, to rest, to take a pause from the world around us, from our work and our daily tasks, to draw strength from one another. Kol Ami, a Hebrew journalist and writer from the late 19th, early 20th century, taught this idea in a brief but poignant line. More than the Jewish people have kept Shabbat, Shabbat has kept the Jewish people. This is exactly what Gerard reflected to me almost 2 centuries later. Keeping Shabbat is one of our oldest practices, connected all the way back to the creation story when God rested on the 7th day. But if Shabbat were only an empty ritual that we fulfilled out of a sense of obligation, we probably would have abandoned it long ago. Kol Ami was right. Shabbat has kept us. It has kept us spiritually resilient, and it has kept us a people. When we sing Vishamru, our prayer reminding us of our obligation to keep Shabbat, we don't sing it as a dirge. We sing it with spirit and with joy. We celebrate that we get to celebrate Shabbat, God's sacred gift to us. So whether your Shabbat ritual is a family dinner or lighting candles or taking a walk or coming to services or some combination of those things or none of those things, something else entirely, keep making space for this weekly moment in your life. And if you haven't yet made Shabbat a part of your life, maybe now is an opportunity to try. It doesn't mean you have to be here at Kol Ami every Friday at 6:15, although that's where we'll be, and you're always welcome. You can take a walk in the park, or decide to put your phone down for a few hours, or make intentional rest a part of your Saturday. However you do it, Shabbat is what has sustained us for generations, and will continue to sustain us for generations to come. Maybe this year is the year you'll want to create a ritual for yourself. As I sat across the table and Gerard shared these reflections on his deep faith in the Jewish people, I was indescribably moved. I had been searching for something all summer, and finally, on that August morning, I felt it. I felt the tension leave my body. I felt some of that existential concern melt away. I felt recentered and refocused, no longer exhausted by my Jewishness, but inspired by it. When he finished speaking, I made eye contact with the other rabbis around the table. I could tell that we all agreed. We looked at Gerard and we said, "That was beautiful. You're ready to immerse in the mikveh." Gerard wasn't just any Jewish person. In fact, when I met him, when he shared these reflections that completely shifted my outlook, he wasn't Jewish at all. Because when I met Gerard, I was a member of his Beit Din, a committee that oversees conversions. He was completing the process of becoming Jewish. Perhaps the most important thing I learned from Gerard came not from his words specifically, but from his presence at that table. We Jews do not proselytize. We don't stand at street corners asking passersby if they want to become Jewish. In fact, if someone came to a rabbi asking to convert, there was a tradition for the rabbi to turn that person away 3 times before accepting them as a student, in order to gauge their seriousness and commitment to the pursuit. We don't do this anymore. We know the world is tough for Jews, and if someone wants to join us, we welcome them to begin the journey. But the fact that in 2025, a professor at Columbia University who has experienced firsthand the tensions on that particular campus was moved not just to support the Jewish people, but to become a part of us. I can't adequately describe to you how that touched me. It reminded me that in all of our ups and downs, no matter what the world throws our way, Judaism does not happen in a vacuum. Judaism happens in community. That incredible spirit of innovation, that doesn't happen alone. That happens when we put our heads and our hearts together to move our tradition forward. While Shabbat comes from the same root as the word meaning to rest, resting by ourselves alone is not sufficient to say we have kept Shabbat. Keeping Shabbat, celebrating Shabbat, is done in community. And when we feel tired, truly, deeply, existentially tired, we cannot re-energize on our own. We need relationship. We need song. We need collective hope. We need oneg cookies. We need oneg cookies not just because they're delicious, but because they give us an excuse to gather around a table and talk to one another. We need to hold up a mirror for one another to show us what we have going for us as a Jewish people, because we do have so much going for us. I am so proud to be Jewish. I'm so proud to be a rabbi. I'm so proud to be a part of this community. This summer, when I needed a spiritual boost, I found it in Gerard's faith and hope. He reminded me of the best parts of what it means to be Jewish. I hope I've carried that forward, and I hope that as the sun begins to set on Yom Kippur tonight, we feel just a little bit lighter, ready to continue forward as the best versions of ourselves and with incredible pride in who we are. May we truly see the light that our tradition brings to the world. May we honor and celebrate the beauty and resilience of the Jewish people. And when we are in need of a reminder, because we will be in need of a reminder, may we each hold up that mirror for one another, reflecting back the goodness and the hope that has sustained us for thousands of years. Ken yehi ratzon.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם וביום השביעי שבת וינפש שבת ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם